In this video, I will be making a low-budget aquarium in a cookie jar. You could call it an Aquajar or a Jarrarium. It will be a freshwater setup for snails and shrimps. I will be using this cheap 5-liter cookie jar that I have picked up from the local supermarket. For substrate, I am using organic compost. You can also use soil from your garden or just regular potting soil. This is the dirted tank method, also known as the Wallstud method, which Diana Wallstud has scientifically explained in her book, Ecology of the Planted Aquarium. The soil needs to be capped with a thick layer of sand. This will act as a barrier between the substrate and the water column and prevent it from getting messy. It will lock all the organic nutrients, which will be taken up by the plants using their root system. Sand also supports the colonization of beneficial bacteria more effectively on its surface compared to other substrates like gravel. I had picked up these stones from the local garden store some time back. I arranged them in a simple formation and added some more sand behind and on the sides to lock them in place. I also added some smaller pebbles around the stones to create a transition into the foreground. They were brushed around until the visual was satisfactory to my eyes. With a simple hardscape in place now, I started filling up the jar with water. I used a bubble sheet so as not to stir up the sand while the water was being poured. The next day, I drained out the water. The process is simple. I filled up an airline tubing with water from the tap. Blocking one end of the pipe with my finger, I dip the other end in water. Simultaneously, the other end is released and water flows out into the watering can kept at floor level. I used it later to water the plants in my balcony. I started the planting process with a small Microsorum Pteropus. I tied it to a stone and placed it behind the rocks. It is an epiphyte and hence need not be planted deep in the substrate. I have been growing some Hydrocotyle Tripartita in a cup. I took a few cuttings and planted them in front of the rocks. These are some plant cuttings from another tank. I proceeded to plant them, starting with the Sagittaria grass. Next, I planted a few stems of Limnophila Sessiliflora, an easy plant that grows very well in low-tech setups. The plant looks very beautiful when it grows and is one of my favorites. Next, I planted 2 stems of Alternanthera, which was followed by a few cuttings of Rotala Rotundifolia, another easy-to-grow plant for low-tech setups. I also had some cuttings of Bacopa Caroliniana and I planted them to the right side of the scape. This plant very often emerges out of water and bears small beautiful flowers. Finally, I planted a couple of Valisneria in the background to fill up the space. The jar was then filled up with water to finish the Aquajar setup. 6 weeks have passed and this is how the Aquajar looks today. The plants have been growing very well with the exception of the Hydrocotyle and the Alternanthera, which is understandable given the nature of this low-tech setup. I have been conducting partial water changes twice a week. The last one was, however, done about a week ago. Algae growth is very minimal. Heavy planting combined with moderate lighting has helped to keep it under control. There is a small amount of algae on the glass and stones for the shrimp and snails to feed on. I have also been dropping in some shrimp pellets and algae wafers for the residents about twice a week. This is a perfect opportunity to conduct a few water tests to understand how this simple ecosystem is performing. The TDS of the water reads 312, which is slightly high for shrimps but manageable. However, this is a good reading for snails. I have a water test kit which I will use for the rest of the tests. The first test is for pH. The reading is about 7.4 to 7.5, which is ideal for shrimps and snails, and most freshwater fish as well. Even in low concentration, ammonia is highly toxic for livestock in an aquarium tank. The test instructions are 8 drops each of test solution 1 and 2 in a test tube filled with tank water, followed by vigorous shaking. The readings are 0 ppm, which is ideal for a healthy aquarium. Nitrite is another toxic compound that is converted from ammonia by bacteria. The test results for this is also 0 ppm, which suggests that the colony of beneficial bacteria in this ecosystem is working and converting toxic ammonia and nitrites to nitrates and finally nitrogen for the plants. Our next test, which is a nitrate test, will prove this point. The test reading stands at 20 ppm, which indicates presence of nitrates converted from ammonia and nitrites by beneficial bacteria. A nitrate level of 40 ppm or less is recommended for freshwater tanks, so we are all good here. The low level of nitrates indicate that it is being converted to nitrogen by the colonies of beneficial bacteria in this ecosystem, which in turn is being used by the plants for their growth and development. This process is the nitrogen cycle in an aquatic ecosystem. Many people I talk to are apprehensive about such small no-filter setups, but as you can see, it is quite easy to make one work without any problems, provided we take the right decisions from substrate layering and planting to stocking. I have this Aquajar running for the past 1 year and 4 months without any issues. If you would like to know how I built it, you could check out the link in the description. These simple setups can also be very cost effective, and you can make one under $15 or even cheaper. Building a small aquatic ecosystem can be a fun project and a beautiful piece of the natural world that you can observe and enjoy in your living space.